Wonderful. We're recording and we're streaming. Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Shang School of Tibetan Medicine webinar series. Today, we are delighted to welcome our special guest, Tibetan medicine practitioner and acclaimed international musician, Ms. Drukmo Gyal. Drukmo Gyal practices and teaches traditional Tibetan medicine, as well as producing beautiful music, which integrates healing mantra. She has curated 5 albums, at least, of Tibetan healing mantra and prayer, collaborating with musicians from all around the world. And she has traveled to more than 30 countries for her concerts, lectures, and courses. Ms. Drukmo Gyal, Amchila, thank you so much for joining us today. We are delighted.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
As always, our ongoing host of our webinar series, our Institute Director and Head Instructor, Menpa Phuntsog Wangmo, Tibetan medicine practitioner with over 30 years of experience teaching and practicing Tibetan medicine, the Director and Head Instructor of the Shang School of Traditional Tibetan Medicine. Menpa Wangmo, thank you so much for being with us to host our show once again. Great to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We're streaming on Facebook, and we're inviting our guests from all places. We're going to do some question and answer later after some brief conversations and presentations. By the way, my name is Adam Okerblom. I'm an alumni of the Shang School of Tibetan Medicine, and I'm talking to you here from the San Francisco Bay Area. It's wonderful, my honor to be joining you today. Let me make a couple of quick announcements before we get started. So most of you have already participated and joined on our educational platform, our learning community. But if you haven't yet, please go check out our learning community at community.tibetanmedicineschool.org. Then you'll see all the updates for our courses and content, our discussions, and you can collaborate with our international community of students, alumni, and supporters. So we have a couple other courses coming up. Actually, tomorrow, Saturday, December 11th, we're going to be learning about the tradition of medicinal honey wine, Chang, with Dr. Phuntsog Wangmo, so we can discover the healing benefits of this very ancient tradition of Tibetan medicine Chang, the Chang, the medicinal wine made from honey. So please do tune in and join us. That's going to be from 12 to 3 Eastern time with Menpa Phuntsog Wangmo. And then in a couple of months in February 19th through 20th, we're going to have a course about the Tibetan yoga, the principles of Tibetan yantra yoga in relation with traditional Tibetan medicine. And our special guest for that is going to be Dr. Alejandro Chaul. We did a webinar with Dr. Chaul a while ago, last year, I think. He's a wonderful, delightful man with so much to share. So Dr. Chaul and Menpa Wangmo will be teaching about Tibetan yoga in February. So please do check those courses out on our learning platform community. All right, excellent. So Menpa Drukmo Gyal, thank you so much for joining us today. And I think you mentioned that you're in Estonia now. How is everything?
Everything has been great so far, despite the sunlight getting shorter and shorter. But in general, everything is going very well, and I'm so happy to be invited. And one thing to clarify, I am not a Menpa. I practice Tibetan medicine as a therapist, and I definitely want to differentiate between the title of Menpa and therapist, because Menpas need to go through much longer training, and therapists are comparatively shorter to be able to conduct certain different kind of external therapies on patients and working closely with qualified Menpas or Amchis. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Drukmola. So will you tell us just give us the quick pitch about your professional practice and your qualifications? So you do therapy with a little and working with your training in Tibetan medicine. Will you break that down for us, just so that at least I'll be clear for next time?
Yes. I come from a Rekong region in Amdo, Tibet, which is pretty famous for being one of the prominent region of yogi, Tibetan yogi or Nagpa culture. So a lot of my family members practice mantra for both spiritual and healing effects or purposes. And I started learning Swarikpa since 2011. And I started to learn Kunye therapy with assisting therapies like horme, foot massage, as well as cupping, mebum, at the Provincial Tibetan Hospital in Xining, in Amdo. And then my theoretical studies continued with mainly three doctors, Dr. Nidachenaktang, Dr. Machik. They are both from a small town called Sokzong in Amdo. And another doctor comes from my birth town, Jinsa. Her name is Tsewanso. And I studied a lot of horme techniques with her during the clinical practices or internship.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We, at the Shang School of Tibetan Medicine, we use Kunye quite often. Menpa Wangmo has quite a bit of teachings about Kunye, and it's a big part of our curriculum. And we love to use the horme. It's so effective for all kinds of ailments, physically, mentally, and energetic, working with balancing the lung energies particularly. Can you tell us a little bit more about specifically how you would use horme these days in relation with your work?
In relation to my work, do you mean how I do horme therapy in everyday life?
Yeah, do you work with horme these days or not so much?
I do horme quite often because a lot of the people around me mainly have issues with lung and often experiencing high frequency of stress and exposed to very hectic schedules. They forget to kind of pause from such a rhythmic schedule. And horme, as well as another therapy called La massage, are pretty effective in combination with mantra chanting. So when I introduce healing mantras, I also encourage people to learn Tibetan medicine and learn these easy therapies so that they can perform at home.
Yes, yeah, that's wonderful. In traditional Tibetan medicine, for example, in the classical text, the Gyuji, in the treatment of moxibustion using the heat and burning therapeutics, then there's specific mantras that are used at that time with those kind of stronger therapies. And then horme is kind of like a gentle metsa, like a gentle moxa, focused heat therapy with the warm oil and herbs instead of burning herbs. So do you incorporate mantra healing if you were going to use the horme practice?
If we talk about the combination of healing mantra with external therapies. In fact, all the external therapies are encouraged to practice in combination with mantras. But depending on the practitioner, you can choose there are a variety of choices. So, for example, if the practitioner taking one of my teacher as an example, Dr. Magic, I know he does primarily the long mantra of Medicine Buddha and Yutok's prayer. So he does these two as his daily practice, and he will definitely complete his daily recitations to affect and to also improve his diagnostic instincts. And that's like one of the purposes why doctors and therapists continue this, keep this kind of mantra practice, because it sharpens the person's senses and also intuitive skills. The other type is kind of like a collection of mantras working as like a toolkit. So you can directly go to the mantra that is corresponding to the inner organs or certain diseases that are already discussed according to the logic of Soarikpa. Because how Soarikpa categorizes diseases are different from other existing traditions. So it's very important to understand how Soarikpa approaches the balance and imbalance of diseases, and then in tune with the philosophy behind these mantras and prayers, so that it really affects the way when you are chanting and not chanting. And the other thing that I would like to clarify about mantra chanting is that oftentimes when people think about mantra healing, they think that it's sound healing. In fact, it's more than sound healing. According to Ngakju, yeah, we call it Ngakju, or the healing mantra. So according to Ngakju, the strongest effect that mantra practice can bring is through silent chanting. You're in fact not using the sound, but you're chanting silently or mentally, let's say, because you're already able to hook your consciousness in one place in the present. But the reason why we integrate sounds or like the voices, as well as visualizations of certain colors from nature and this natural shapes of nature, as well as the shape of the syllables. Yeah, how the syllables are written, the calligraphy. So these are techniques in this mantra toolkit to help us hook back our consciousness. Because our everyday experience in this life is very scattered. We believe the delusion is like what we see and what we hear are kind of separate, but in fact, for the mind, it's not separate. They're in fact together. So in these mantra practice or meditation practice with mantra recitation, it helps to unify these sensory experiences, and it nourishes the essence of mind. Sorry, I talk too much.
No, that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. I love what you mentioned about the connection between natural shapes and sort of natural design in nature, and then the kind of calligraphy of shapes of certain sacred syllables. I don't think I've ever quite thought about it exactly like that before, and that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really like how you mentioned this distinction between two kind of main applications of mantra healing, kind of a very broad spectrum and then a very precise and specific. It reminds me when we were studying at the Tibetan Medicine Hospital in Amdo in the Xining, then when we got to visit there, Menpa Wangmo arranged for us to be able to visit there. It was really amazing part of our program through the Shang school. And every morning, all of the staff, all of the young doctors and nurses and people would all gather together first thing in the morning before they saw patients, and they would all do a mantra recitation together. In Medicine Buddha, a Yutok invocation, they would all be chanting together. And it was very powerful, very beautiful. And it really struck me as being so effective for many ways, but then especially in a hospital clinical setting, then it can bring the whole staff together, harmonize, make a connection, set an intention. And I thought that's such a wonderful way to begin a workday. In the United States, hospitals are so chaotic and so, intense. And I think that would be a really good practice for everyone to practice. So it reminded me of that. So, Drukmo, you mentioned that your kind of hometown is the Repkong region in Amdo, the traditional Amdo region of Tibet. And this area is kind of well known for the Tibetan yogi tradition, the Nagpa tradition. And we got the chance to visit there as well. And we got to meet a few teachers and their students. And this area is magical. It's incredibly beautiful. The beauty of nature, the mountains there is just amazing. The people there are amazing and beautiful. And I remember we got to meet a few young Ngakpas, and I remember thinking that they were just such cool guys. They were very clear, very, one guy like jumped on his motorcycle and winked at us. And these guys were like really cool. So this is a beautiful, wonderful place. Can you tell us a little bit about your early years, and especially your initial studies, and how you got really going with studying mantra and medicine in your hometown of Amdo in the Repkong?
I appreciate your comments on my birthplace, because it always makes you feel good when a visitor tells you good things about your hometown. But I also do want to clarify that probably if we visit somewhere far away that we have had a lot of that we heard a lot of stories about, then oftentimes we already host a very good projection on that place or that particular area, and it helps to also create we co-create our visualization of that place we visit. So I really do appreciate your co-visualization of Repkong. However, my understanding of Repkong is as peaceful and chaotic as in the West. I don't see much difference between living in Tibet or living in the West. I came to Europe since 2014, so it has been a bit more than 7 years. And it's not too long, but based on this experience, I really would like to encourage more understanding of bridging the two cultures rather than making distinctions of the two, because I believe that Soarikpa is Soarikpa, just like all other existing systems of medicine, is not alternative medicine in a way. It actually has a whole entire history, and it is practiced on a professional level, but the measurement of the outcome and the way how it's practiced are different because of different factors, cultural factors, and geographical factors, as well as this economical factors, environmental factors. So it's very very important to have this link between the two. But yeah, that's my first point. And the second point is that I I did not experience internally a starting point that I felt like, okay, this is where I had interesting mantra. This is where I started studying about it. It was more like a more of a something that is lingering in the culture that I grew up with. It's very common that I see people coming to my grandparents' household because my grandparents are yogi and yogini, so they did a lot of retreats with mantra recitation and yogic exercises. So a lot of people would come from nearby villages to get mantra blessings. So they either come to ask for mantra water, mantra salt, mantra oil to do their therapies that are prescribed by local amchis, because sometimes amchis do not necessarily practice all the yogic exercises and a spiritual healing system. So they might work they might partner with several yogi practitioners they have built connection with. So they would refer their patients and say that, oh, you need such rituals and you need to chant such mantras. And if you want, you can visit this yogi for the mantra water or oil or salt. So my grandparents were one of those places where people came and received this short treatments. I remember one of the things that I personally experienced was that I had some skin issues on the back, and my mother tried a different cream, but it didn't work. So she took me to the mountain village to visit my grandpa, and he did the chantings, and he splashed water onto my back, and after 2 days the pimples were all gone. So that was the kind of like the experience that sounds magical, but at that time, to a girl who grew up in that area, it is not magical. It is just part of life. And it's probably the same when a person experiences the effectiveness of chemical, pharmacological, chemical medicine. For the first time, they're like, wow, magical, you know. So it's probably similar experience, but it's just different medias. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So so in this traditional medical care setting, then the doctor, the amchila, may treat the patient, and then they may prescribe them or refer them to a mantra practitioner for a specific type of mantra intervention, specific type of therapeutics. That's amazing. Wow. Thank you so much. So that's the kind of specialist I wish we had more of around. I think that's so useful. So you mentioned that in your particular story, this mantra practitioner was your grandfather. And so as I understand, this tradition of mantra healing, mantra practitioner, this Nagpa tradition is not a monastic tradition. This is for like families and household or people, and often this is passed down in families. Can you explain to us a little bit, for those of us who are very new to this kind of idea, What is this tradition of Nagpa and mantra in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, cultural tradition, and how specifically, how does it work with like family lineage and in that sort of way? For example, I know in your own family. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think I would like to start with the fact that family lineage of Nagpa refers to that there has already been a few generations of Nagpa practitioners, and it doesn't have to be son, daughter, father, son, or it doesn't have to be direct. It can also be uncle, nephew. It can also be niece, auntie. So one of the relatives in the entire family, as long as they practice and they influence the next generation and the next generation, the younger generations, out of their own will, wants to join that tradition and continue the practices for the entire region, for the benefit of that entire region. But of course, in the practices for all sentient beings. And but practically, it's for that region. So that's one. And the other is that if sometimes I remember my father's family didn't have a Nagpa. My mother's family has 6 generations of Nagpa. My father's family didn't have Nagpa, but one of the nephew of my father decided to become Nagpa when he was in his late 40s, I think. So he just, after visiting different lamas and doing his own practices in fractions, he finally decided that he would like to dedicate more, which meant that he had to undergo this strict samaya of becoming or practicing yogic practices. And oftentimes that means minimally 3 months to 100 days of practice, like retreat practice every year. So it is. This is like one way to keep up all your practices. So they often retreat. They'll often make spiritual retreat for 100 days per year, or another is they can make shorter retreats but multiple times throughout the year. And then there are many samayas that. My favorite is, of course, that you cannot discriminate female, which in a patriarchal society it's pretty useful. But that's one. And the second part that I would like to address is the yogi or like Nagpa tradition was started by Guru Rinpoche. By Guru Rinpoche since 8th century. And the first yogi and yoginis were Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsoja. And Yeshe Tsoja is also known as the first female mantra practitioner. And she used mantra to heal a lot of patients. Back then, I guess we didn't have a lot of categorizations or understandings of mental disorders, but in Tibetan system, we call them the illusory diseases. So all the mental disorders are kind of like illusory. So the treatment is always related with the spiritual practices. So the spiritual aspect of Soarpa should not be confined to Buddhist medicine or like Buddhism, nor it should be detached from this Buddhist spirituality. It actually has its own like spiritual aspect, and that needs more we need to take more. We need to perceive it with more open mind. And mantra healing is one of the aspects from this part. So, for example, if we look into the spiritual aspect of Soarpa in terms of healing, then we have 3 gates: body, speech, and mind. So the body, we have different yogas, and Nankono Rinpoche's Yantra yoga is also one of those prominent and very wonderful system that has healing effects, and also Nejang yoga and many other yogic systems like physical yoga system. And then for speech, then it primarily refers to the mantras. And mantras in this category has 2 divisions: the spiritual mantras and the healing mantras. So what I usually present is the healing mantras and also some of the spiritual mantras that are used for healing purposes. And then we have the 3rd gate, which is mind. Then that involves meditations, and I categorize it like that, but in fact they're all interconnected. We can't really see them separately. We have to take them holistically. But just for the sake of making things clear, I kind of make them into these little categories to help understanding. Then the reality is that in Repkong region, the Repkong region has one of the biggest Nagpa communities. So almost 1 out of 9 families have a practicing yogi or yogini. And that means they all practice the Tantra, they practice Tibetan Buddhism, and they practice healing mantras, especially especially working with provocation diseases, like diseases that are hard to diagnose. And like in Jushi, talks about the Naga provocated diseases and Za Rahula provocated diseases. They are the most commonly reappearing cases in Tibet, and even nowadays it's still very much practiced. And that means some yogi or ngakpas are practicing only the rituals, 2 rituals that consist of mantras and visualization to heal undiagnosable or like difficult to diagnose diseases that we perceive as provocation. Then also we have Ngakpas who practice both traditions, Tibetan medicine and the rituals, including mantras. And so that's I think that's what I have included in the previous answer, where I mentioned that there is this referral system. Of course, it's not under an institutionalized referral system, but based on personal connection. And the reason why I came to that kind of explanation is because my time in Estonia working as the director of the first Tibetan Medicine School in the Baltic states. I work also with a lot of local biomedicine doctors, and I see closely how they work with other doctors and therapists. So this kind of system reminded me of what me, my family, and my grandparents worked in that healing system. The only difference is that here there's a existing institution that facilitates different practitioners to refer each other, but in Tibet we don't have this kind of institution to help them like refer to each other, but it's more built on personal connections.
Thank you, Drukmo. And I think that's a really useful point. Part of the beauty and effectiveness of this kind of system, as you're explaining, is beyond this kind of institutional bureaucratic way and is more community oriented. No, so you have more support and interconnection and collaboration between practitioners in a local community level. And I personally think that's a very beneficial for patients, and I wish we had more of that here. Well, thank you so much. So I'd like to go and talk with our host, Menpa Phuntsog Wangmo, for a little while, because I think that what you said is a really good segue to some of the things I'd like to ask her. But then I'd like to come back and talk about a few more things with you, Drukmo, and then we'll have some question to answer with our audience. Thank you so much for all of those words so far. Menpa Phuntsog Wangmo, thank you so much for being with us today. And I wanted to kind of go from what Drukmo said and just kind of get your words on some of these issues. So you're in Massachusetts, and probably it's a little bit dark and cold there now, just like in Estonia, like Drukmo mentioned.
Yes, thank you, Drukmo. Thank you. It's so beautiful, your talk. It was so good. So I want to say just thank you. And then in Massachusetts, this winter is different than slightly different than the usual winter. So opposite of what you thought. We have big sort of like sunlight. Can you believe?
That's not how I remember.
Yeah, that's I tell people, you know, this is a little unusual winter. Maybe I wasn't here last 10 years winter here. Maybe it was like this, but I don't remember. So anyway, this year we have pretty beautiful winter so far. Yeah, so that's my answer.
So I wanted to start by asking you, Menpa. So we've been talking about specifically the aspect of mantra healing in relation with Tibetan medicine and treating patients and this sort of thing. So first of all, let's take a step back and look kind of big picture. Can you tell us a little bit about just kind of the role of, we know that Purkiso Rigpa, traditional Tibetan medicine, is explicitly, intimately connected with the Buddhism practice in many ways. And from this connection, we get specific practices like mantra healing and this sort of thing. So this is connected with Buddhism, connected with the Tibetan culture. So can you just tell us a little bit about how the Buddhism practice works with the medical practice of Tibetan medicine in general terms? Will you tell us a little bit about that for starters, please?
Okay, thank you. I will try. So I think in the back to the 2014 or 2015, when the Namkha Nobo Rinpoche, he came to US, and then we had this amazing Tibetan medicine conference at the Ruby Museum. At the time, during his lecture, he said, when we looking the disease, there is two categories of the disease. One we call is the Dunjen, which is with the provocations. And one is the Dunme, which is without provocations, more like the physical aspects or wrong diet, behave, or accident, or whatever. So he said is that the reason we put into two categories, because is these two has a two different way of the approach and then assist. An example, if there is without provocation, that we could treat with the supplements, medicines, decoctions, pills, powders, whatever included changing diet behavior. But if the issue is connected with the provocation, which is called the dungeon, then may not perfectly going to work with the medicines or diet behave. They needed a medicines, the mantras. Also in the Tibetan medicine, in the Gyushi, when we categorized 404 roughly, so we said is 101 disease is very minor disease, like a common flu. If you take medicine, that's fine. You will resolve a little sooner or quicker. Without taking any medicine also should be fine. An example, someone fell down from the walking. If someone assists to get up, is good, quicker, sooner. But without someone's help also, they will get up by themselves, sort of like. Then 101 disease is a more serious disease. Yes, you have to do everything. Otherwise may not result. And then 101 disease is connected with the provocation. You need to treat the dual way, the medicine and the mantra, either the spiritual way or the ritual practice way. But it comes to the treat that the dungeon disease, the disease with the provocation, the number one, what we need to do is separating the body from the provocations. Because in your body, there's another sort of like a spiritual, the spirit sort of like enrolling your body, like occupating your body, your energy. So you need to separate from that. For that reason, you should you should choose the spiritual treatment or ritual treatment, which is included a mantra. And then you treat the body part. Otherwise, you treat the body first, and then the spirits keep making messy your body, so never able to clean up. So, and then 101 disease is more connected to the karma, so there's not so much things to do with the medicine. Mainly you try to stay with the practice and the charities and then be like a generosity, basically like pay back your debts, which karma means you've done something in the past. So, and then Rinpoche at the time also Rinpoche said is he gave also examples of his own health and then when he's sick and then which kind of came useful. So he said is in the 1993 or 4 when he had the health issues. And then first he tried to follow the Western protocols, the medicines. And then he thought maybe this is my last part of my life. But then one day he thought, every time I tell other people do the long life practice, which Rinpoche's his own like Dharma teaching, which we call the Mandarawa long life practice. And also there's a Guru Thakur practice. So each time if someone comes, I tell them do some practice. Why I don't do myself? Why I don't try myself? He thought that, and then he used that practice by himself. And then that was like in 1990s. And then till 2018, then he's with us. So he said that is thanks of the practice and the thanks of the mantras and the thanks of this and that. So this is really also what the Drukmo said is when it comes to the healing, the physical, like the structure part is healing, and then inside energy part is healing, and then their more soul is need to heal. So when we're talking, the healing is a huge topic. Healing can be a stretch to many aspects. That also I really like the Tibetan medicine. In the first page of the Tibetan medicine we call as men. Men does not mean is this way or that way, or like men does not have such a limited boundaries. Men means is a benefit, to benefit or to assist. So men can be, there is like two main part, like that they learned as like a science way to apply the medicine, and the men can apply it more like the indigenous, like a religion or spiritual things. So there, I think it's a Tibetan medicine. This also makes really Tibetan medicine is very rich. I see really Tibetan medicine is like a holistic or whatever we're calling. Because the Tibetan medicine, since the beginning, this body, this miracle or this mysterious, this body, to understand is a sense of beginning is, it could be is a very miracle, but it could be also very mysterious. And then this, to understanding this miracle, this body, the body has a lot of like unlimited powers, functions. The physical body does not have unlimited power function. Everything's limited, but this the mental level power is really is unlimited. You look those people who has such a power, the power of the mind is unlimited, but the physical power is limited. So this kind of reason is if you have this, that the way of the controlling this unlimited power of the mind with a certain way, then they sort of like do the positive things, then have like a power of the positive action. So this also I really see that the Tibetan medicine, the science of the healing, and this the mantra, yoga, meditation, all those kind of like put together as a healing package. And then that really is a soothing or gave a benefit for many, many different way, and then any aspects of the field. Even though we comes to the mantra healing or this healing like a practice or spiritual that comes to the mantra, also there is same like a Tibetan medicine. Medicine, when we categorize like 404 disease, finally divide into two groups, hot and cold. The mantra healing also same sort of like comes to the end, there's a two, peaceful and wrathful. So or you deal with the peaceful way, or you try to deal with the roughly. Like Rinpoche said is that I did the morning in the Guru Thakur practice, and then I do the long life practice. Like a Guru Thakur is like the little faith, like strong, like wrathful practice, and then Mandarava sort of like a gentle, peaceful practice. Both equally benefits to the health, and then to restoring the souls, and then especially brings like a faith, and then clean all the, like a mental pollution. So that's really I see is there's get a lot of the benefit things. Another one I want to say comes to the mantra. It's not only necessarily is connected with Buddhism, but pre-Buddhism. So the Tibetan medicine, every time I say, because is Rinpoche said, Nagpa Rinpoche told. So that way, I'm sort of like a parrot repeating, what he said. So like the root of the Tibetan medicine is not any other countries. The root of the Tibetan medicine came from Tibet, Himalaya plateau. So that is the way before Buddhism introduced to in our land. At that time, we do have a like our existed religions or spirituals, whatever we call is the Burn tradition. So the Burn is that the root of all the Tibetan culture sources where they originally came. And then later, of course, the beautiful Buddhism introduced into Tibet, and then we had more like it developed, and then more sort of like, how should I say, sort of like that all the useful things or like applicable things or all sort of like non-dangerous things then we put together, then is the medicine became is more like the perfect way, but is the root of the Tibetan medicine came from Tibet. So same also like when it comes to the mantra, also Drukmo will tell you later, but is that the most of which we using in the ritual practice for the healings. Like myself, I do a lot of geo practice. I really like the geo practice. And then I received the geo practice from my guru, Nagpa Rinpoche, also other teachers. So when we look in this, that the geo practice and then way of the acting, or when we like it, the 5 element practice, this kind of time, a lot of this, the way of the acting, way of the doing is not really is connected to the Buddhism's, as like more like how should I say, is more like that the together like mixed way, sort of like. Also Rinpoche said many times, an example like putting like a prayer flag is not in the Buddhism tradition, it is like a burn tradition. So simply, or conclusion, yes, this the mantra healing is well known in the Tibetan medicine, in the Gyushi. Also Rinpoche really talking a lot about this, how importance of the mantra. So also when I see people, also I tell often like do this kind of practice, maybe better, maybe this practice is better. Because the Tibetan medicine, when it comes to the reading pulse or looking the urines, there is a specific topic sections talking about how should recognized or learn the read the provocation pulse and the urine. So the Tibetan medicine, they talk a lot of this provocation. So comes to the provocation is it could damage to the physical body, but mainly to the mental spirit, like mental problems, more like invisible things. At that time, yes, physical medicine, yes, we can take, but the main thing is like the mantra and this kind of. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Menpa Wangmo. Yeah, thank you so much. I love it how I'm asked, but this is something both you and Drukmo both mentioned when I'm asking, let's talk about the Buddhism connection, and then both of you pointing out this kind of profound foundation that the Pukiso Rigpa, the Tibetan medicine, is something that goes beyond the scope of a Buddhist practice and is universal and is something intimately linked with Tibetan culture to the very ancient prehistoric time, and then is something that is available for all people. And actually, I know we have this documented in the Tibetan medicine root text in the first book of the Gyuji. We have the Medicine Buddha teaching, presenting the Tibetan medicine text, and it's very explicit that is presented in a way for all people with a very diverse audience and not just one group by any means. So thank you so much for that, Menpa Wangmo. So I have such a long list of questions for both of you. There's many things that I would love to ask you, Menpa Wangmo and Drukmo, about what we have talked about today. But I want to make sure we spend a good amount of time fielding some questions from our audience now. So
yeah, maybe also we all looking forward to Drukmo applies one like a mantra with the melodies, if that is possible, or if that is Adam, like if you're planning. So
well, I would also be absolutely delighted, but this is not up to my plans at all. Something I
okay. So if the Drukmo is available, so
Drukmo, are you available for sharing some example or sharing some piece with us?
Of course, my pleasure. And I was, thank you. I was feeling so, um, feeling so calm to listen to Menpa Phuntsog. It's like water, like a stream of water just passing by, and then you hear the sound of the nature and you suddenly just come down. And that's how I felt when I was listening to Menpa
Thank you.
Phuntsog.
Thank you.
So calming. I think before Menpa Phuntsog talked, I was like a tornado, so much long and just jumping all around. Yeah. So nicely, so nicely wrapped up the connection between Soarpa and Buddhism and beyond Buddhism. I forgot to mention that the collection of mantras in Ngakju, in Tibetan healing mantras, come from three sources. So some are from Indian Buddhism, so they are Sanskrit, and some are from Shang, so they are from Bon, and some are literally Tibetan language, colloquial language. So it's very interesting to go through all the mantras. There are more than 100 mantras available in this collection. It's compiled by Jumi Paramboche in the early 19th century. And I very much practice in the mornings the mantra of 5 elements. And in the evenings, I do a very short mantra for sleeping. Has been always very, very helpful. I think I would like to share the evening one. As probably you can find a lot of sources on purification mantra of 5 elements online. This evening mantra is only 3 syllables, Ri, A, Hong. Ri, A, Hong. And the visualization is very interesting. Basically, you visualize a black hole in the frontal lobe. So around your third eye in the frontal lobe, you visualize a black light, kind of a black hole. And while reciting Ri Ahom, your entire consciousness will focus on that black hole in the frontal lobe. And oftentimes I don't even notice when I fall asleep. And recitation can be silent at first with a very, very low voice, and then goes to mental chanting. We could try together with sound, and then lower volume, and then mental chanting. So by doing this, you can either sit down and keep the back, sit up and keep the back straight, or you can lay down on the side way to your right side, so that you're not pressuring your heart. Riya hum, riya hum, riya hum, riya. Riya hum, riya hum, riya, riya. Riya hum, riya. Riya hum, riya. Visualize a beautiful glowing black light in the frontal lobe, in between your eyebrows. As you focus on that black light in between your eyebrows, your eyes are very tense, all the nerves are very focused onto that region, but then slowly relax the facial muscles, the nerves, and kind of loose the control of the bodily existence. As Menpa Phuntsog said, that our bodies are limited, but our minds are not. By doing this visualization, we're always connecting or reconnecting with our mind and its unlimited capability. So you visualize this beautiful glowing black light, and it fills the front lobe of your brain or head, sometimes referred as mind, but mind is not only the brain, but also the connection between this brain and our visualization. Then slowly relax your body. As you chant this mantra, you can always do body scan. Connecting with the 24 sacred places of your body. Your neck, shoulders, upper back, chest, belly, lower back, your arms, legs, your hands and feet. After connecting to your body entirely, visualize that you have this hollow, empty body. This is a very famous meditation technique called Lutongra, empty body visualization. This is to detach ourselves from this limited physical condition and reconnect with our mind. Reconnect with that visualization that we focus with this mantra. A black glowing light in the frontal lobe. Riya hum riya, riya hum riya. Riya hum riya hum riya. Riya hum riya. Now when you're chanting, just breathe normally. Breathe slowly in, the short retention, and slowly breathe out. And let the mantra Riya hum serve on top of that breathing process. Riya, riya. If the process of our breathing is like the wave on top of an ocean, then the mantras are surfing on that wave. Riya, riya, riya. Riya, hum, riya. Riya, hum. Om Banzar Sato Hom, Om Banzar Sato Hom, Om Banzar Sato Hom. To purify mistakes if we made any. Always chant 3 times of Banzar Sato after the recitation. But for this mantra, when you're trying to fall asleep, don't worry, you can do it in the morning. Om Banzar Sato Hom. So that's a very short practice. I find it very helpful, especially when I was traveling to share different workshops and promote Tibetan medicine. Sometimes I have to fly in between continents, and that messes up my sleep. I experience jet lag more than 10-15 hours, so I always use mantra and simple horme technique to to help my body reschedule its biological clock, and usually just lasts for about 3 to 7 days. I can recover. So that's why I have such strong faith in mantra and horme practice. As you can see that I'm pretty skinny, so this limited condition of the body, I experience a lot of alone, and I'm very aware of that bodily condition, so I do a lot of alone therapies in everyday life, and that's also this embodied experience gives me the confidence and the love that I generate when I talk about it, when I talk about mantra, horme, kunye to other people, because I know it brings embodied experiences and healing experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Drukmo. That was beautiful, very relaxing. So now my tornado has also calmed down. So thank you.